Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemonski with me as always. What's poppin', Rick?
What's up?
We got some interesting stuff to get to today. We are going to do a first round mock freaking draft. So we're just going to do the first round. And this is not really a mock draft as in we're going to sit there and draft at one position and teach you guys how to do. We're going to try to project out the first round of January of what we think the first round might look like. And we'll do the second round next week of what these first two rounds might look like going into, August, and just kind of give you a picture into what possibly could happen coming into the offseason. I wish I had last year's ADP with me to see what happened there, but I do not. So I think we had Gibson at like 12.
And J.K. Dobbins, I think, was the first one.
But things change in the offseason. They always do. So we're going to try to look forward, see if we can project out what this first round might look like. Rick, I'm going to give you the first pick so you can think about that.
Okay.
But anyway, we're going to do a first round mock. Before we do that, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing peachy.
Oh, there it is. Just peachy.
Just peachy. I could smell my wife cooking dinner upstairs. And
that's what's up.
And I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry. So I might go fast on this by accident. Hopefully.
It's okay.
And that'll help you guys out because you want to, not listen to my voice for, who knows? Maybe you do. Maybe you're sitting there and you have some kind of like weird ASMR like thing and you like listening to Rick's voice.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's kind of weird. Anyway. So for this, let me confirm, are we doing PPR?
Yeah, PPR. Let's do it.
And we're going to do one pick at a time, just like last year, right?
Just
like
go back and forth. One pick at a time, just go back and forth.
Okay.
So start with one.
So, with the first overall pick...
I wish I had that sound.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, the ESPN sound. Hold on a second before you make your pick. Let me see if I can find it on YouTube and if it'll play.
Okay. All right, well...
ESPN selection...
draft noise. I will say the first overall pick, you could go, I think, different directions here. There's like two or three guys.
Hopefully I don't get an ad. If I get an ad, I apologize, everyone.
Uh-oh. That's why you need YouTube.
Showing up on the first page of Google.
There it is.
I got an ad. Sorry. I told you I was going to get an ad. What were you saying, Rick? Well, hold on. I can skip the ad. All right, let's go.
Okay. All right. With the first pick in our way too early mock draft, I will take Christian McCaffrey, running back, San Francisco 49ers.
Whoa, we're going CMC first?
CMC first.
Okay.
I think I was looking back at what he did with the 49ers after getting traded, and he only had one game under 10 points. He had a 39-point game, 17, 17, 28, 29, 25, 31, 31, 13, 16. So that's pretty ridiculous.
Years old.
He is an old man kind of running back. But at the same time, how many 27-year-old running backs were good this year? Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette for part of it.
I think thinking forward, that's definitely probably a possibility. But I'm surprised that you don't put Eckler here.
No, I think I would say McCaffrey. I think Eckler, I guess we'll talk about it, but I think some of his production came because of Joe Lombardi's offense. And I do think touchdown regression is very possible, considering now he's had back-to-back years with almost 20 total touchdowns, which does not happen consistently. So I'm a little down on Eckler, but we might get there and people are going to see that he was the RB1 and we'll just take him first overall. I think that is possible. Yeah. But as of right now, I'd say McCaffrey.
Okay, so this one's the second pick is a little bit tougher for me.
Okay.
because there's several guys that you could definitely go with.
Sure.
And it depends on what happens in the offseason for some of these teams.
Yep.
Some options at running back that I think would be in this vicinity.
Don't give it away, bro.
I'm not giving it away, but some options at running back that could be in this vicinity. Eckler, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon. I think I don't think Nick Chubb would be in the conversation, but I think those four guys will probably be at the top of drafts, and people will be talking about them in the top 4 or 5, and they'll probably be guys that we take in this draft in the top 4 or 5.
Yep.
But it's a little bit tougher because it depends on the situations.
Right.
Derrick Henry.
Like,
does that team? Do they get Ryan Tannehill back? Do they go get a quarterback? Is their offensive coordinator? Who's their new offensive coordinator? What does he do? All that stuff kind of plays into effect. Do the Raiders get Tom Brady?
Right. I was going to say, if the Raiders get Brady, Jacobs is going to be probably a top 3 pick.
Eckler catches like 100,000 passes a season and scores 100,000 touchdowns. But here, I got to make a decision. So let's roll it. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
So I think I'm going to take Josh Jacobs.
Wow. Okay, hot take a little bit.
I wish I knew why. I was going to take Eckler.
Yeah, you were going to, for not taking Eckler 1, but
yeah. It was either for me it was either Eckler or Saquon.
Okay.
Or Josh Jacobs. So I'm going to take Jacobs. I based on the past year, like it's actually kind of a little bit more dangerous because Josh Jacobs is in a contract situation too. They got to re-sign him. And I would imagine that they're going to be like, yeah, let's just get him. Let's re-sign him. Just because you can't not re-sign this dude. If he does go somewhere else, I'm scared of my pick.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm assuming he stays with the Raiders. They run it back. He said he hopes to re-sign in Vegas. So hopefully he stays. But just early in the season, it was very weird for Josh Jacobs, and they declined his option. Morons. They declined his option, and they said, we don't want this guy. And it's Ziegler, and it's the Patriots, and we can get another running back. And then he was ridiculous. I think Josh McDaniels and Ziegler realized this guy's really good. We have to keep him on the team. But it was the amount of work that they gave him once they figured out that Zamir White and, Kenyon Drake and whoever else was on the team were not good. And that happened. I want to say that happened right around week 4. To some extent, but he had 18 touches in week 3, right? Week 4, he had 32, 26 in week 5. He had 23 in week 7. He only had 12 in week 8, and then he had 20 in week 9. He had 29 opportunities, which is targets and rushes together, and then he had 28. 40 opportunities against Seattle Seahawks in week 12, 28, 29, 25. I mean, they ran this guy straight into the freaking ground. And I don't think that changes. He was number 1 in standard leagues, number 3 in PPR. And I think the thing that you get with Josh Jacobs, and the reason why I put him here at 2, is consistency. There were games that he was not consistent, but he gets the ball every single game, and you can rely on that. And that's where guys like Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry come into play, where it's sometimes we just overthink fantasy football, and we're like, we got to go out and get that guy. He's really good at X, Y, and Z, and and you just overthink it. And sometimes opportunity is just sitting there. I've passed on Derrick Henry so many times. I look at Josh Jacobs as a Derrick Henry-like player.
The new Derrick Henry.
And he is 24, so it's he's not too far off from Henry's age, but
Henry's 29, so
never mind. Way far away. I thought he was 27. All right. Oh. But he could be the new Derrick Henry, where they just he's not that sexy pick that everyone wants to take. And there's always that one guy that has some kind of like fetish with him and is like, oh, I love this guy. This guy's really good. And they just draft Derrick Henry every year. But I passed on Derrick Henry so many times, and he was literally got the same 25 to 30 opportunities a game. When you get that many opportunities, it doesn't matter what format you're playing. They're going to. And this, like, he's the best of both worlds because he gets the 25 carries, and then he also catches 6 passes. So there's that.
Right.
So, I mean, I think Josh Jacobs is a really good player. It took me a little while to get there on the explanation, but I think just one final note for Vegas, he had 53 catches. So, you add that with the 340 rushing attempts. Obviously, it wasn't in the vicinity of 400, but the first 3 weeks of the season, he wasn't getting the massive running share that he was getting in the first like the back half of the season. So, I would take Josh Jacobs second because of the consistent opportunity that he would get.
Yeah, nobody I think would have guessed that this time last year that we'd be looking forward to the next season and we'd be talking about Josh Jacobs as the number 2 overall pick.
I mean, where would you take him? Just quickly.
It depends. See, the problem is like we really don't know. Like, because if Brady, the intrigue of Brady going to the Raiders I would definitely consider him in the top 3, if not top 5.
Okay. If Brady goes to the Raiders, I think what would happen, because part of this is what we would do, like, personally, because I have that little part of me that's like pass catching running backs and going for the riskier guys. Like, part of me personally, I might take like an Eckler or somebody else in this slot. But like, I think what could happen in the offseason is, like, with Tom Brady possibly going there, if that happens, that could accelerate this to a point where it's like throwing, gasoline on a fire and people start drafting Josh Jacobs top 2 or 3.
Right.
So
I think that would be what, like, if Brady's there, I could easily see Jacobs being a top 3 pick for sure.
All right. You got your next pick.
And even number 2. I'll make it a little easy on you because I'm going to switch things up here. At number 3.
Oh, don't do it.
I'll be taking Justin Jefferson, wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
The Minnesota Vikings.
PPR.
He's the wide receiver 1 this year. I think Cooper Kupp last year in drafts, where did he go? Like 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think he went as high as 3. He went 3, 4, or 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is where we kind of, because there's a lot of running backs, as you kind of were just mentioning, that you could have put there at 2. Mm-hmm. So I think this is where you kind of throw the wrench in with that first receiver. Yep. There'll be definitely a little bit of gap after Jefferson. We're going to go probably a couple more running backs here. But at the 3 spot, I think this is where you could look to see in PPR leagues, right? And we've kind of evolved
it makes sense
with wide receivers. I've even seen people talk about him potentially being the first overall pick next year. I don't think that's should be the case, but I think he'll probably be the first receiver off the board. He was the number 1 receiver this year. And in PPR leagues, I think around that 3rd pick, especially where there's not like a clear running back and you could debate with a couple of the other guys, that I think you could go wide receiver here.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I've started to, I think, Rick and I talked about on our the Lessons Learned show about how the wide receiver position possibly is now shifting to a position of more importance. Like, I still think draft-wise, it's very hard to get good running backs outside of the top 3 or 4 rounds. And it's like you have to like Josh Jacobs is like literally the only 4th round running back that had a ton of success. So it's like ETN, I guess you could throw in that conversation, but it is much, much more difficult to have.
Pollard, maybe.
Pollard, what was he, a 6th round pick?
Yeah, something and like Stevenson that. Too, but other than those guys.
But like, it's just hard to get running backs later when you get so many really good, like McCaffrey. Saquon Barkley was a top 2 round guy.
Derrick Henry,
Eckler, like all those guys drafted in the top 2 rounds. If you don't draft a running back in that vicinity, you have to hope that you nail, a Josh Jacobs or a Tony Pollard or something like that in the later rounds. But yeah, so I think drafting Justin Jefferson, not a bad idea, especially early. And it's something I might consider, because if you get that big time receiver, that could accelerate your success moving forward. But I could go back to the running back position here as I say that.
Of course.
I'm going to have to project out that it has to be Austin Eckler here.
Okay.
And I did say a few shows ago that I'm
Did
curious.
you do the sound effect, bro?
I did the sound
Oh,
effect.
okay. I can't hear it, so.
All right. But so basically, I feel like part of me, I don't think Eckler personally for me should be drafted this high, because I do think that 2 seasons in a row now, he is literally just like, he's gotten a lot of target share, and he was the RB1 this year, but the dude literally finds the end zone every 5 seconds.
Yes. Yep.
And it's like, I don't know how long we can continue hoping Austin Eckler punches it into the end zone this much. Now, I don't think he's going to be a bust, but I do think that he could be a guy that finishes RB1 this year in PPR and half PPR formats, and then next year finishes RB6 because he lost 7 touchdowns on the season. So balancing that with what I think will happen is people are going to draft him in the top 4 or 5 because he had the RB1 season. So I'm going to have to take Eckler here. I think that's what's most likely to happen. I think you could, as even the second running back off the board, you could make an argument for Eckler / Barkley. I think Barkley should be in this conversation. He's probably next, I would assume. I'm not going to assume because Rick can go anywhere. But I take Eckler here.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I am a little down on Eckler for next year too, but he's going to probably be a top 5 pick, probably even top 3 based on what he did this year. And I still think he's obviously going to produce fantasy value. He's going to be in a really good offense again. Mm-hmm. He's a pass catching running back. But I don't know, like the workload, it feels like they kind of want to give other guys opportunities.
Yeah. And
he also, not only the touchdowns, because last year he had 20 touchdowns, right? Mm-hmm. This year, I think he had, 18? He had 18 touchdowns.
That's ridiculous.
So ridiculous, right? I think that goes down. He also had 127 targets, which was like 5th in the NFL. That's also, even for a pass catching back, that's ridiculous.
There's a lot of regression coming for us.
Exactly. So, I mean, is he going to be a top 5 back next year? Potentially. But I wouldn't bet on him being the RB1 or even top 3 running back next year. So, he was RB2 the year before, but again, the touchdown regression, I think is happening. So I'd probably say he's like the RB4 or 5 next year, which
fair enough.
This is about the spot you would take him in. So with the 5th pick, it makes it a little easier for me because I have one guy here that in mind. I believe that it will be Saquon Barkley.
Shake and bake.
He was very good all season, consistent. He was the RB5. And he's another guy where he's going to get pretty much all the opportunity in the offense. The only thing that's holding him back is potential of really injury, which this year he didn't have any injury. Well, he got injured, I think, in one game. There was one game where he only had a 30% snap percentage, but he came back the next week and was fine. So it wasn't anything crazy. He finally showed what he's capable of doing again this year. He's still relatively young. He's younger than people think because I think he's just been in the league for 5 or 6 years now. But he's only 25. He'll be 26 next year. He's a year younger than McCaffrey. He's a couple years younger than Henry. He's 2 years younger than Eckler. So he's still kind of in his prime. The Giants offense obviously took a massive step this year, and I think they're going to build on that. Mm-hmm. With Brian Daboll, I think they probably get some weapons. Yeah. The offensive line, which will only help Barkley if they get weapons, because then it gives more of a threat to the passing game. But he's kind of like Jacobs and Henry in the sense of like he is the pure workhorse. He had 295 carries. He had 76 targets. So he's a pass catch. He's involved in the pass catching game. He's going to get about 300 carries, and he only had 10 touchdowns this year, which could go up next year with an improved offense if they build on it. So Saquon, I think, is pretty easy pick here at number 5.
Yeah, agreed. For me, you could go many different directions with the second pick. You could definitely see another wide receiver go, especially in PPR leagues.
For sure.
I'm a little bit more nervous about this personally, but just projection-wise, I think based on the information that we have, it's got to be Derrick Henry, right?
Fair enough.
So like I said, I'm so nervous. Like I wouldn't draft.
I won't. I will not. Yeah, I'm not drafting
I'm
him,
not
but
doing it.
I think that's fair at 6 here.
To me, like, and I don't even think it's like a horrible like draft selection.
No, it's just 29-year-old running back.
Yeah, at this point, you're talking about a 29 to 30-year-old running back. He's very good. He gets a lot of work. I think there's questions surrounding the situation in Tennessee. But he was still ridiculous this year. He was the RB3 in standard, RB4 in PPR leagues. They still feed him the rock, and as long as he stays healthy, like I don't see why at this point he wouldn't get 25 plus touches a game, whether they're on the ground or through the air. The other thing that I did notice this particular season over other seasons was that in seasons past he's never gone over like 19 receptions. This year he had 33. So if that's something that continues to, like, they weren't great. Actually, the yards per carry were pretty good, man. This new offensive coordinator got him involved in the passing game.
He did a little bit.
With that could be beneficial to Derrick Henry. My issue is I don't know how long this is going to last for Derrick Henry. I think, like, to me, he's older. Getting him at 6 actually for me might be like if I'm at 6 or 7 in the draft, I feel good about that. To be honest with you, I'll be like, yeah, hey, if this guy does what he did last year, I'm okay with that. But he is old, so you just have to be you have to be careful with that.
I just don't want to be the guy who takes him the year
he gets
that
hurt. That's like literally
the year that he like falls off like Todd Gurley and you took him 6th overall.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but no, that's fair. I think he absolutely will go there. There's also a big like Derrick Henry stan group that's going to take him top 5, like the Derrick Henry people. And he hasn't had a drop off in production yet, so it makes sense for him to be picked there at number 6. So here at 7, I have a couple options. I think I could go a couple different ways.
Yeah,
but I am going to take maybe a little bit of a surprise here, but Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp at number 7, second wide receiver.
Personally, I wasn't going to take him at all. So
fair.
I'm interested to see what you think, because I do think with the injury and stuff, I think he'll end up like mid-second round. But
sure.
I want to hear.
Okay, so I think he'll probably still be the second receiver off the board. Yep. We all know about his 2021 year and how ridiculous he was. He was a top 3 or 4 pick, and he actually was living up to expectations before the injury. He was the wide receiver 1 before he got hurt. He just was behind Justin Jefferson in points per game on the season. He still averaged 22.4, which was second among receivers, and it was close behind Jefferson, only 0.2 off. And he was still a full point per game ahead of the next guy in Tyreek Hill. So he was living up to kind of, maybe not living up, but actually I would say he was living up to the expectations before the injury. He's not super old. He's 29, so he's on the older end, but he's not, if a redraft for a wide receiver, that's still fine. He's still in his prime. And the injury he suffered is a little concerning, but it was a right ankle sprain, right? A high ankle or a right ankle sprain. So that's like a 6 to 8 week injury. So he should be fine. Theoretically, he should be absolutely fine going into next year. And you could be concerned about the Rams offense, the Rams in general, and I think those are fair concerns, but they sucked this year when Cooper Kupp was out there and healthy, and he was still balling and still producing at a really high level. So I think people are still in love with Cooper Kupp from what he did the previous year. And I think because of that, he's going to be the second receiver off the board. And I feel like at pick 7 here, with some of like the top running back options gone, I think that would make sense for the second receiver.
I don't disagree with your logics and your
argument, I guess.
Yeah, and the fact that he was ridiculous when he was on the field. The big thing is the injury, so like I think that is going to kind of turn people away a little bit, and it'll push Cooper into the probably into the mid-second round, late second round, to me at least. But I could see your argument that people are still in love with the dude and want to take him. But anyway, my pick coming up here. What is it, 7 or 8?
This is pick 8.
All right, pick 8. I think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go Nick Chubb.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Nick
Safe
Chubb
pick.
here.
Safe pick.
Yeah. At this point, we could see a little bit of a stretch on wide receivers, 1 or 2 picks coming up.
Sure.
And I think that, this is the last true, like, RB1 definite. Like, he's going to get the work. He's going to be there. Like, I think, excuse me. I think it's the last guy on the board that you can trust in and like know that he's going to be good. Because after this, it's a lot of like hot take-ish kind of
it's
guys.
Gonna get hot
and
take-ish.
it's like obviously, like I have some guys I'm thinking of that I could see getting drafted into this range, but to me, it's a lot of running backs that like either broke out this year that I don't feel like Pollard. I don't think is going to be a first round pick. Just
no, I don't
FYI.
either.
So I think he could end up in the late
second round. If Zeke, especially what happens like off season news, if like
Zeke.
There's training camp reports of like Zeke is done, they're going to
like
Pollard,
or they get rid of him or whatever. They've been consistently saying it's Zeke. But even when Zeke's on the field, Pollard's been really good, and he's been clearly more explosive and a better running back than Zeke at this point. So I like him. I think that a lot of people are scared away, but you see RBBC with Tony Pollard, RBBC with Aaron Jones, RBBC, I think with Ramondre, like Dalvin Cook's still the RB1, but he's been inconsistent last couple of years, not producing at the same height. Leonard Fournette's on a team that doesn't have a running back anymore. I'm not sure where he's going to go, and he's old. Joe Mixon, still really good. I think he could slide in right behind Nick Chubb, end of first round. But it's just, you're starting to talk about running backs here that are good, but not at the same level of like a Nick Chubb. So I think Chubb is like a tier line. And I think coming off the board here, he might be the end of those top tier running backs and going into that second tier of either breakout running backs or consistent running backs that maybe don't produce the same as, a Barkley, Henry, or Chubb. So that's who I would take with at 8.
That's a good pick. See, now we can start going in really any direction.
Yes.
There's 2 guys who are very intriguing to me, because once we start looking at the next group of running backs, there's guys that both got injured early on, but were, have either potential or were producing at a high level. That's Breece Hall and Javonte Williams. I think you can make the argument for either guy here. The problem is they're coming off ACL injuries, and we just saw what happened with J.K. Dobbins, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if Breece Hall was 100% healthy, I think I would say Breece Hall at this point.
But is
after Nick Chubb.
the pick in?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm not going to go Breece Hall because the injuries scare me. And I don't know how, like, J.K. Dobbins last year really threw a wrench in, a running back tearing their ACL and coming back next year ready to go 100%, which has happened before.
Sounds like the pick is actually coming in.
So oh gosh, because I don't. All right, so pick is in.
All right,
pick is in.
Here we go.
Not gonna go running back. I'm going back to receiver.
Yeah,
another kind of safe pick. It's Tyreek Hill.
I typed it before you said it.
Smart. Yep, Tyreek Hill.
Smart man.
He was a wide receiver too. I think you could go. Maybe you could go Stephon Diggs or A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, some of these other guys, even Jamar Chase too, who was injured. But I think Tyreek Hill is the second guy off the board. The biggest concerns were with, going from Mahomes to Tua is obviously a huge drop off, but and going from Andy Reid to the Dolphins is a huge drop off. However, Mike McDaniel really featured Tyreek Hill all year. They used him in a lot of different ways. They used him well in a PPR setting too. Like, he had a lot of short passes with the Chiefs, but they used him in the deep ball a lot. I feel like he was used in the deep ball and he had his moments, but I feel like they utilized him more in short yardage situations, which benefited in PPR format because he had a lot of receptions. I want to go back to see how many catches he did have.
I think it was over 100.
Yeah, he had a career high 119 catches this year, career high 170 targets. So I don't think that's going to change next year. I think they're going to continue to use him like that. I don't know if he finishes as the wide receiver too. This is more of like a safe pick. And at the end of the first round, there's a lot of teams that are going to have like maybe one kind of hot take-ish pick and then one more safe pick, or maybe 2 safe picks, depending on how they want to do things.
Yeah.
But Tyreek Hill, I think, is a safe pick at this point. You're getting a top 5 wide receiver, a guy who's going to be utilized in the offense. And again, only 7 touchdowns this year. That number could very well go up next year.
If you get Tua for a whole year, that definitely will increase. And I think there's definitely, like, obviously everyone was talking about, oh, Tua can actually throw the deep ball. They didn't do that. They ran a lot of RPOs. They like to chuck it down the field. There was a couple of moments. There was a couple of moments where they do that, but they were few and far between. And I think what they like to do is get the ball in Tyreek's hands and use his, his quick feet.
Yep.
And his not just his downhill speed when you're talking about 0 to 40.
Quickness,
it's just the quickness, the ability to get around defenders and create yards after the catch, and that's what he does well. And they use that in Kansas City, and they definitely use it for Miami because it's literally the only thing Tua can throw. But Tyreek Hill, really good. I think with those target share, if his touchdowns go up next year, he could be really good. I am actually more inclined to believe, like, you don't usually see a wide receiver repeat from year to year. Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, the last 2 years, Cooper Kupp didn't repeat this year. Justin Jefferson, he could repeat as long as he stays healthy. Definitely think that because he's ridiculously good. But I think Tyreek Hill should be in the conversation for number 1 wide receiver next year, especially if Tua takes another step forward. The guy I'm going to take next is a little bit. This one's a little bit another. Remember we're in PPR league, so if you're yelling at us about taking wide receivers, I'm gonna take Stefon Diggs.
Okay,
Diggs is really good. He is a little bit lower than Devontae Adams. I'm nervous about Devontae Adams slightly, depending on what happens. I assume, obviously, like I said, my hot takes, Brady's going to the Raiders, so I'm like, okay, I like that. But I do think, I don't think that Devontae Adams is going to have that same kind of production next year. He's a little bit older. I thought he was going to regress this year, but he didn't. And Brady likes to spread the ball around to several different guys if he is throwing it to different locations. So under my assumption that he goes there, it's Devontae Adams. But I do think there's slight age regression coming for Adams. And I don't want to take him the year that happens. That's just my opinion. I do still think Adams will probably be, I don't want to take Rick's pick for him, but I do think that guy he'll either be in the top 12 to 14 of the draft. And he could actually go ahead of Diggs or Tyreek Hill based on his points per game totals. But I like Stefon Diggs here. He's still young. He's still really good. He has Josh Allen as his quarterback. There was a point in the season where he was just straight winning you weeks. And Diggs is really good. So I'll take him at 10.
Okay, so at 11 here, I can't. There's something I want to take, but I don't know if it's right. Mm-hmm. Again, I think if it wasn't for the ACL, Breece Hall, to me, would already be gone. I'm not going to take him, Okay. I'm going to take somebody who disappointed a lot of people.
Okay.
But still has that RB1 potential, and that is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor had a very disappointing season.
Okay. I'm interested to see where he actually ends up.
I am too.
I totally forgot about him.
He was the first overall pick, right, in most drafts.
Yep.
And he disappointed a lot. I think he finished as the RB30. He did miss 5 or 6 games, though.
Yeah.
In points per game, I think he was outside of the top 10, but he wasn't too far outside of the top 10. Mm-hmm. I could count it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not gonna count it live, but anyway, he had an okay season. It was just really disappointing on where you drafted him, right?
Yeah.
Now you're looking at it, though. He's a guy who we know can finish as the RB1, right? He was the RB1 in 2021. Mm-hmm. The offense, we don't really know what direction they're going to go in. They're going to probably have a rookie quarterback. They're probably going to trade up for either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or whatever they end up doing. So they're probably going to utilize the run game again. I think the offensive line is still okay. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they had a bad year, but there's still some really good players on that offensive line. And I think they're better than what they were this year, right? I don't think they're a great team, and they obviously disappointed. But they only won 3 or 4 games this year?
Yeah.
4 games. I think their offense can be they didn't play to their full potential. I'm not saying they're a 10-win team, But they should have been like, I think they're capable of winning like 7 to 8 games, right?
I think their identity is wrapped up in Jonathan Taylor, and their coaching staff, really didn't realize that until it was too late for Frank Reich. And he spent so much time trying to mix in 3 different running backs that it was like, it's just a disaster. And it's like, you got to give the rock to Jonathan Taylor. That's how you win football games. It's how you almost made the playoffs last year. Like, I know you want to pass it, but if that's your identity, like, roll with it.
Right. So that's why I would say Jonathan Taylor, kind of just for that upside and that potential that we know he's capable of doing.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're on the clock. Last pick.
All right, here we go. This is I already had this pick locked in.
I
don't know if I should have this pick locked in, because there is some guys that got hurt this year that should definitely be upwards of in the conversation. You have Jamal Williams, you have Breece Hall, some of those guys. You could also
Javonte.
Javonte. Did I say Jamal Williams? I saw his name and combined it with Javonte. He was a top 15 running back, by the way. Disgusting. He's ahead of DeAndre Swift. Tears roll down my cheek. 50-50 committee right there.
Yikes.
Oh, my God. Anyway, so there's some guys that I think there's a lot of second-round running backs that I like. And like I said, Breece and Javonte could be in this conversation as the 12th pick. I think you could also see Devontae Adams come off the board here.
For sure.
Or A.J. Brown or C.D. Lamb. So there's a lot of really good players that could come off the board. But I think I'm going to go a little hot here. The pick is in. It's been in for the last 20 minutes. Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh. Okay.
So, Ramondre, listen, if you haven't watched the Pats, don't watch them. It sucks. I'll tell you. I suffered. I rewatched games. I'm going to rewatch games in the offseason because I'm that big a fan of this stupid football team. But listen, I had to take a drink before I get into this. Ramondre Stevenson had a point in the season where he was averaging like 1 yard per contact.
Yeah.
1 freaking yard per contact. And the dude finished with 235 fantasy points, and he wasn't even the starting running back week 1. This guy is legit. I watch him, and we were talking about Josh Jacobs, mini Derrick Henry. I see that with less speed, to be fair, with Ramondre Stevenson. He looks really good. And I think watching the Patriots and having a freaking carousel of running backs for so long, I just kind of mentally check out when you see a talented running back. This is one of those running backs. And he can pass catch. I don't know if they'll use him to do that, but he can pass catch, and they want to give him the ball like 20 times a game. I think they could move on from Harris this year. I think that's definitely a possibility.
That's a very real possibility, yeah.
And I think you had a defensive coordinator, a terrible offensive line play at least, and a running back who was getting 1 yard per contact, and he still finished with 235 fantasy points on the season, was ridiculously good, and put up massive numbers. Some of his runs were just like ridiculous based on what he was looking at. So if the Pats, which they're looking for an offensive coordinator, if they get a new offensive coordinator in here, their offense looks more efficient, and they get into the red zone a little bit more, and Harris is not on the Patriots, you're going to see Ramondre Stevenson put up some big numbers. And I think he could be one of those breakout running backs. If he doesn't go here, I think he could go 5 or 6 slots like later. But I do think that he should be in the conversation, and maybe this is one of my breakout running back takes for the season, but he should be in the conversation of being a top 12 running back, at least for next season. Because he was this year and he was ridiculously good. And I think that there's a lot of people that look at that and say, hey, I'm going to take this guy in the top 12 in my fantasy draft. So Mondre, I'll take him 12.
You brought up pass catching. That was huge. You know, he had 80. He was third among running backs in targets, only behind Eckler and McCaffrey.
That's insane.
He had 88 targets, 69 catches. So because of that PPR machine, he also had 1,000 yards on the ground. Only 5 touchdowns. He had 1 pass, so he had 6 touchdowns, 1 rush, or 5 rushing, 1 receiving.
Yeah. And
Damian Harris is a free agent. Don't know if they're going to bring him back. If they don't, it's the Patriots, so they probably will draft a running back. But I still think Stevenson will be the main guy. And even if they just use him the same as they did this year, he was the RB7. So I think that's a good pick. Although I do feel like we are missing someone kind of obvious that I probably should have taken it at 11.
Tell me who it is, because I feel like I was missing somebody too.
We don't have Jamar Chase in our first round.
Oh my God, it's because he got hurt. I didn't see his name.
Right.
Hold on.
Yeah.
We gotta make a change here. Sorry, Ramon.
I would put him at 11 ahead of Taylor. Unless you want to just do what you're doing right now.
I'm just changing my pick. Sorry.
Okay.
Jamar
Stevenson,
Chase.
Maybe as a preview, is our first pick of the second round.
Yeah, could be. I mean, that might be you, because you're first pick of the second round.
Okay.
But
we can reverse it.
Yeah, no, Rick's right. I totally forgot about Jamar Chase. He's absolutely insane. I think there's a conversation that he might even be drafted up where Tyreek Hill is, or even Cooper Kupp, especially in PPR leagues. He missed some time, so he obviously didn't finish as high, and the list I was looking at didn't even have him on it. So I can't believe I forgot about Jamar Chase.
It's okay, because I did too. I did bring him up earlier, and then I forgot about him.
Yeah, he was top 5, so he was literally like, it's a question of like, next year, do you want Jamar Chase or do you want Devontae Adams? That's kind of what
I would take Chase.
Yeah, I would take Chase too. So, there you go. Any more thoughts on these guys?
No, I think we did. This is probably our most like safe early mock that we've ever done, because I remember last year we had like Gibson and Dobbins, but it's probably the most realistic. Like, this actually looks like what the first round could look like next year.
Yeah, maybe with a plus or minus a couple of spots.
Of course, but a lot of time left before we start drafting. So.
Seriously. So there's your first round mock. Next Thursday, we're going to do a second round mock, so be sure to stick around for that. I don't know what's on Tuesday, but enjoy the weekend, guys. Bye.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.